Hello and welcome to Strip Panel Naked. I'm Hass and I'm going to show you some of the cool stuff lurking in the pages of some of the best comics. I've talked before about things that comics are known to do less well than films. It's always an easy comparison as both are visual mediums, but while they can be similar in many ways, there are strengths and weaknesses to both. So we had the episode about speech bubbles and how building sound through that is unique to comics, and this episode we'll talk about horror, and how film has an advantage, but it's still kind of manageable. And films are well known for horror movies. They're some of the most profitable pictures in the cinema year after year. Horror comics aren't known to be as popular, The Walking Dead excluded, and I think that's because there's a perception they aren't as scary. I know I've had some feedback on this channel discussing that. So when you think of a scary scene in films, more often than not we're thinking of those short, sharp cuts that lead to a scary image. In film it's really easy to do this. You can quickly cut to a scary image, add a smack of music to amplify the change, and your audience is scared. In comics, you can't really do that. Both of those elements, sound and linear pace control, they don't really exist in the medium like they do with film. Okay, so how do you create effective horror moments in comics? In The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, an Archie Comics book by Robert Aguirre-Sacasa, Robert Hack and Jack Morelli, they utilise a very effective method of doing this, creating horror and fear within the pages of a comic. It's a single method, but there's a bunch of little moving parts that are all working together to create that singular effect. Before we get into it, I'll mention there may be some parts of this episode that count as spoilers. Some of the pages and images we'll look at will contain plot points, as we're looking at a couple of pages from issue 4 of the series. The analysis won't talk about those plot points, but they will be noticeable in the pages and panels being analysed. You know, if that bothers you, go read up to here and then join us. Otherwise, let's enjoy. So what they do in this book is try to build up to those cuts we talked about in the intro. You know, the quick cut to horror, the standard horror trope. How they do it in Sabrina is by using the page turn as the cut. The beauty of film for horror is you never know what's going to come, as it's this purely linear medium as I said earlier, so you can only see what you're being allowed to see. You can't jump to the future and see some images from later in the film. And with comics, when you look at a page, you absorb that whole page straight away. You can see that there's a particular striking image, or if there's something crazy happening, your eye will kind of see it. So you have to be careful about how you build to those moments. But with a page turn, you can't see what's coming round the corner, so that gives you an unknown as a reader, and the creators can play with that and use it. Aguirre-Sacasa and Hack play on that a lot. Here's the example from issue 4. We have the page of a bloodied Sabrina chasing after someone in the woods to save them. She's drenched in the stuff, which helps build some of that fear imagery, and the fact she's running to save someone kind of amplifies that as well. And the caption boxes are designed to build up to something and then suddenly stop right before the page break. So we have this no caption, the last thing on the page. And this sits alongside the image of Sabrina looking at something that we can't see as an audience, with a shock on the face. That creates a need for us to turn the page and find out what she's seeing. It's kind of like the cliffhanger at the end of an episode of TV, you know, tune in next week, but we just need to turn the page to find out what she's seeing. So we turn the page and we get one more reaction shot. That's a full horizontal width of the page. What that does is limit the visual information we need to take in. It's a simple background and Sabrina is framed centrally, no panels left or right of it, so we're taking in just that one image. It's very simple, just her with her mouth agape and 2 speech bubbles. All the energy and the frantic pace of the previous page has been taken away, that page filled with narration, which I'll mention more on shortly, and we're now left with this empty long panel and 2 small speech bubbles. It feels really quiet in comparison, and it acts as that kind of final moment in horror films when the sound falls away, right before the loud crash and roar that makes us jump out of our seats. That's replaced here with this panel below, the shot of the witch and the body of the dead boy she's just eaten, that boy that Sabrina was running after to save. It's striking because of all of that build-up. It's not a particularly gruesome image in and of itself. I mean, it's not gruesome, but it works because of the previous panel and the page. And that's the thing about horror moments in any medium. They don't work in a vacuum. They're much more effective when you're pulled into them. And so let's just take another look at that previous page to see what Aguirre-Sacasa, Hack and Morelli are doing to make that happen. Because it plays just as big a part in the horror as the actual horror panel here does. And if you count this up, there are over 190 words on the page spread across 16 captions. That's a considerable amount, coming pretty close to what Alan Moore said he was always told was the maximum amount of words that should be on any page, which is 210. And if we take a look at what Aguirre-Sacasa is actually writing about in those panels, you can see some of the cleverness involved in that too. The top half of the page is about Sabrina's fear for the boy, what will happen to him, coupled with the images of her running through the woods, and you get a nice pairing that works in tandem to increase the fear and tension as we begin the sequence. Now, halfway through the page, with the silhouette of Sabrina as the tipping point, the captions start to change into something else. It becomes a more positive language about Sabrina and the boy running away and building a life together. Interestingly though, it's all framed as things they would do, not things they will do or are going to do. And that choice of tense is really pertinent. It creates a sense of despair because of that. It feels like an option that's been removed in the past, not actually hopeful language. It seems more like a dream or fantasy option, right? And we also get this one panel, a pleasant farm scene with an older Sabrina and the boy she's running after. She looks in the early stages of pregnancy with everything nice and peaceful, or smiles. It's idyllic, on purpose, because the narration trails off and we next see Sabrina worried and scared in that final panel, and the language comes straight back to the devil and fear with those repeated no's. So the imagery and narration is building tempo and tension in the top half of the page, and the bottom half is creating a more peaceful, beautiful image, though it's still steeped in dread. It's lulling us into a false sense of security before making us turn the page and slamming us with that horrible, gory image. This style of sequence is found all over this book, and actually it happens on the next 2 pages too. You've got this fantasy sequence of Sabrina dreaming of the future she could have had with this boy, all these snapshots of their time that feel quite happy, but the narration removes us from that by reinforcing it with their wedding. It distances us, and then you turn the page, led by these ellipses on the final caption, and you get the horror image as the first panel. Once again, a full horizontal image. The reason they use this effect is because, well, it works. Comics as a medium will never be as simply immersive as film is, because it's always ultimately controlled by the reader. It's you that controls your reading speed, and it's you that controls the page turns. But there are an extraordinary amount of ways to manipulate that, to create fear and tension, and layer and mix effects to maximize it. In Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Robert Aguirre-Sacasa, Robert Hack and Jack Morelli cleverly do this, building pace, distancing, happy images leading to a cliffhanger, page turn, and then scary imagery. Time and time again. They show that actually if you start to layer these effects together, rather than just using them in isolation, you get even more interesting dynamics occurring. You know, it's a masterful way to show that comics can still be a choice for those wanting to tell scary stories. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy Strip Panel Naked and want to join in the discussion with reading lists, articles, and lots of annotated page breakdowns for each video, join us at patreon.com/strippanelnaked. If you want more page breakdowns, I routinely do annotated page analysis on my Twitter for various comics, and you can find that at twitter.com/hassanoui. This episode was edited by UC Quiche. You can follow at twitter.com/UC Quiche and tell him what a great job he did. See you next time.